All right, let's dive right in. Today we're going to tackle a question that gets to the very heart of pretty much every single disagreement we ever have. It all boils down to this. Do you want to be right or do you want the best outcome? Because, as you're about to see, those two goals, well, they can lead you down completely different paths.
Oh, you know the feeling, right? You're in that conversation, going back and forth, and you can just feel the tension cranking up. You realize you're just talking past each other. It's so frustrating, it's draining, and it really feels like a conversational dead end. So what gives? Why does this happen over and over again?
So this right here, this is the choice we're all making, a lot of times without even realizing it. On one side, you have that powerful pull to just be right, to win the debate, prove your point, and get that little rush of feeling validated. But on the other side, there's the desire for the best outcome, to actually solve the problem at hand, to make real progress, and maybe even build a stronger relationship. The path you choose here determines everything. So first, let's explore what happens when our main goal is simply to win. This is what I call the I'm right trap, and it's pretty much the reason why so many of our important discussions just completely spiral out of control.
There's a really powerful, deep-seated biological reason for this. The moment, the literal second you tell someone that they're wrong, their brain doesn't just hear a friendly difference of opinion. Nope, it hears an alarm bell. It registers a threat, almost on the same level as a physical one, and that kicks off an instant, gut-level defensive reaction.
And once that threat alarm is ringing, it triggers this totally predictable and totally miserable downward spiral. See if this sounds familiar. You state your case, thinking you're being logical and clear. But because they feel attacked, they immediately get defensive. They stop listening to understand you and start looking for ways to poke holes in your argument. So naturally, what do? You double down, you amp it up. They amp up their side. And before you know it, nobody is even trying to solve anything anymore. You're just left angry and frustrated.
To really get why we fall into this trap, we need to look under the hood at a hidden bias that completely takes over our thinking when we feel defensive. This is what's going on inside your head that keeps you locked in that frustrating loop.
The main culprit here is something psychologists call anchoring bias. It's our brain's natural tendency to latch on to the very first piece of information it gets, that's the anchor, and then it interprets everything that comes after through that initial lens. It's a mental shortcut that, in the middle of an argument, becomes a huge problem.
And here's where it all goes so wrong. When a conversation starts to feel like a fight, your anchor becomes being right. Once that anchor is set, you're no longer looking at new information with an open mind. Your brain is actively filtering everything the other person says. It's searching for evidence that supports your anchor and basically discarding anything that challenges it. You're not really listening anymore, you're just reloading for your next attack.
But what if you could consciously switch your anchor? Well, you can. We can shift the entire dynamic of a conversation from a problem to a solution. And it all starts by asking yourself one simple but incredibly powerful question.
This is it. This is the question that changes everything. Right before you respond, before you let that defensive feeling take over, you just hit pause. And you ask yourself, okay, what's my goal here? Do I want to be right or do I want the best outcome?
The power of this question is immediate. It acts like a circuit breaker. It forces a pause, and that little pause gives you just enough space to break that emotional, reactive cycle. It lets you take a breath, calm down, take a step back, and intentionally re-aim the conversation toward a more productive goal.
Okay, so you've made the shift. You decided you want the best outcome, not just the win. Fantastic. But how do you actually get there? Here's a practical 3-part toolkit for having way better conversations. Think of this as your new playbook for any difficult discussion. Step 1 is all about listening. Step 2 is all about making sure you're on the same page. And Step 3 is all about confirming that you are. Let's break each of these down. First up, seek to understand. This is about real, generous listening. You have to let them finish their entire thought, no interrupting. Your goal is not to agree with them, it's simply to understand where they're coming from. Ask open-ended questions like, can you tell me more about that? Or how did you arrive at that conclusion? For now, your only job is to listen. Next, and this is huge, don't assume shared meaning. Every single person's brain is wired differently by their own unique experiences, so words like efficiency, respect, or even soon can mean completely different things to you and to them. The key here is to ditch the jargon, use simple language, and give specific, concrete examples. Don't just say you want to be more agile, describe exactly what agile looks like in action.
And finally, step 3, which is basically a communication superpower: summarize and paraphrase. When you can restate what you heard someone say, but in your own words, it's magical. It shows them you are actually listening. It lets you catch any misunderstandings right away. It lowers their defensiveness because they feel heard, and it actually solidifies your own understanding of their point. It is a total game changer.
Let's see how this works in the real world. Imagine a coworker says this to you. It's just a salad of corporate jargon, right? It sounds important, but what does it actually mean? It's so easy to just nod along, but that's exactly how projects go off the rails.
So instead of just nodding, imagine you respond like this. First, you translate the jargon into plain English. Move money to our most effective marketing efforts, which shows you got the main idea. Then you ask for a concrete example. Can you give an example of a channel you mean? With that one sentence, you've cut through the fog and made sure you're both talking about the same thing.
So as we wrap things up here, let's totally redefine what it means to win a conversation. It is not about being the last one talking or proving your point the loudest. That's not the real prize.
The real win is when you recognize that great communication is a collaborative process. It's not a competition. It's more like a creative act, where people are working together to build a shared understanding and find the best path forward as a team.
And that brings us to one last, absolutely crucial mindset shift. I want you to remember this. Just because you're right doesn't mean the other person is wrong. Two people can have completely valid, correct perspectives that just happen to be different. The goal isn't to pick a winner, but to integrate both views into a bigger, better, more complete picture. So, the next time you feel that heat rising in a disagreement, that old familiar urge to just prove that you're right, I want you to take a breath and just ask yourself the question. Are you going to choose the short-term satisfaction of winning the point or the long-term value of finding the best possible outcome? The choice is always yours.